If your book is only selling in English, you're leaving most of the world on the table. Now, German alone has over 150 million speakers, Spanish has more than 500 million, and in Spanish languages specifically, reader demand for translated books is already outpacing what's available. So the question isn't really whether to translate your book, it's how you actually do it. Now, here is the short version. AI translation tools take your manuscript and in minutes produce a full translation in another language. This isn't a word for word like Google Translate used to be. Some of the modern AI models actually understand the context, the tone, and the idiom a lot better than people expect. That's the promise, at least, and it is mostly true, but mostly is doing a lot of work in that sentence, and that's where a lot of authors get into trouble. Now, first, let's deal with a few of the objections to AI translations, because you're probably thinking at least one of these things. Maybe you're thinking it will sound robotic. Now, sometimes, yes, it will do, especially if nobody checks it in the native language. Maybe you think you can't trust AI with something you spent 2 years writing. Now, that's absolutely fair enough. You shouldn't have to trust it completely blindly. Maybe you think it's expensive to do it properly. And actually, this is the one that most people get wrong. A traditionally translated book can run around $7,000, $8,000, even up to $20,000 per language. Now, if it's done the right way, that cost can drop dramatically using AI. That isn't to say that pro translators don't do a great job. They absolutely do. But for most people, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 is absolutely out of reach. Now, all three of these are real concerns, and they're also actually solvable, and I'll show you exactly how to do that in 1 minute. Now, firstly, let's have a look at how you can solve the "it will sound robotic" problem. Now, first, take a line like "the sparks flew between them" that you might see in any romance novel. Now, if you translate that very literally, in some languages, that might sound like a chemistry operation, or rather than chemistry between two people, or it might even sound like an electrical fault or a safety hazard. Or take another scene from a romance book, which is more of a love scene that's been written with a bit of delicacy. AI doesn't always know that that's on purpose, and it will helpfully swap every soft phrase for the most literal clinical version it can find. And what was written to be steamy suddenly reads like a page out of a biology textbook, which would be a little bit of a mood killer. Now, that's not really a translation anymore. That's more of a first draft that needs a human before anyone sees it. So let's have a look at the manual DIY path. Say you decide to do it all yourself using AI tools, and this is what that process actually looks like. Now, you'll paste your manuscript into an AI tool like ChatGPT or Claude, and chapter by chapter, and you'll have to do it like that because most tools will cap how much text you can run at once. You'll copy the whole output into a Word document, and you'll do that again and again and again for every single chapter, and then you'll do it again for every single language. And this is where a huge amount of problems can happen because context will get missed between sessions, you'll lose half your work potentially, you can't even read the output, so you don't know if you can trust it. Maybe even the generic AI tools, they don't know how to handle more of the sensitive topics, like I mentioned before. They might even block translating some of those sensitive topics. Or maybe your book has a lot of slang from the Highlands of Scotland, or it has a lot of jargon from the world of text. Now, a lot of this can get mistranslated, or it can get lost in translation. Now, here's what no one really tells you about doing this all yourself, because we've seen firsthand on real books. The title itself sometimes has been left untranslated because it was styled slightly differently to the rest of the text, and nobody caught it before it went live. We've also seen bibliographies get duplicated and scrambled out of order during the process, and we've spent literally hours confirming that the category on Amazon matches up to what the authors selected and that the storefronts actually exist in Amazon in the real KDP dashboard. Now, none of these are rare occurrences. It happens all the time, and it happens by default sometimes, especially when there's no second pass, no human checking the AI work, and also no one verifying that the metadata actually gets your book found. It's doable to do it all by yourself. It's not fast, it's not free of risk, but if you do want to do that, it can be a good way to get some of your text translated. But here's one of the things that a lot of people don't expect, because actually the hardest part of translating a whole book is not necessarily the individual sentences that you're translating, it's actually the structure of the whole book. Now, every book has a bit of a skeleton. It has chapter titles, subheadings, front matter, the copyright, about the author pages, back matter, bibliography, some of the legal notes, and there's dozens of headings that all have to match up and line up in order in the right place in every single language. And this is a bit of a problem because if you can't read that language, then that translated text, sometimes it doesn't come out the same length as the original. Sometimes German sentences, for example, run a bit longer than English sentences. Italian phrasing might work even differently again. And you might think that French and Spanish and Italian are very similar, but they do have different length words and different sentence structures. So when you're translating straight through without accounting for all that first, and then the structure slightly drifts, suddenly a chapter title turns into a full sentence instead of staying short. Maybe a subheading gets dropped, and the table of contents no longer matches the book. And these are problems that we see all the time. Now, most translation tools don't even think about all of this because they're translating word by word, not book by book. So we've flipped the order. We extract every single chapter title and subheading first, and then we translate that structure on its own and we lock it in place before a single paragraph body of the text gets translated. And everything else fills around the skeleton that's already been corrected. And then at the very end, every heading gets checked back against the original, language by language, against the English, making sure that that structure doesn't slip. And this is exactly why we built BookLingua in the first place. Now, we use AI to do what it's genuinely good at. It's really great at translating fast, high quality, first pass translations, and the structure gets locked in right at the beginning. But every single book needs to go through a real human review, and that is the part that nearly every other tool misses. Now, you'll get a review document showing exactly what was changed and why. You'll see every idiom that got fixed, every line that read a little bit too stiffly, every cultural reference that needs adapting, and you can even select some of the wording that you want to keep. For example, measurements, place names, magic spells. Do you want to keep medical terms in Latin? All of these things you can select beforehand. And then we handle what most authors don't even know they need, which is the verified Amazon categories and the back-end keywords, all in the native languages, including pricing guidings, specific marketing launch plans, and a launch pack, so you're not guessing how to sell the book in the different translation markets. Plus, we'll also give you keywords that you can use for your Amazon ads. We've done this for parenting books, memoirs, science, biography, romance books, kids books. We've done it in German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese so far, even French. And a typical review will come back to you with 300 or 400 marked track changes. And these are real fixes that a human has done and also that our AI second pass has done. So every book gets translated, we verify the structure, we review it, and then we deliver it. And this is how you can translate a book using AI for much cheaper than you would have even thought to do in the first place. So if you've been putting off translating your book because it doesn't seem like the right thing to do, or it feels like a full-time job, it doesn't have to be. That's the job that we do. So if you want to, go and check out booklingua.io, where you can send us your manuscripts, tell us which language you want to translate to, and we'll take it from there.